Senator Mack, thanks for sitting down with me for a few minutes to talk about the events of the week.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So first, I just want to understand the basic facts around this because there's been so much back and forth on social media, as you know. You posted, as I saw, your first TikTok video, I think last week,
Yes.
just recently, and you talk on there about your work as a senator, your work on abortion rights. Do you consider it a campaign TikTok, a personal TikTok, a mixed TikTok? How do you view the account?
Yeah, I think it is a mixed use account. I started the account shortly after the overturning of Roe v. Wade, and I saw a variety of folks who had no source of information, especially in Rhode Island, on what to do next. For many people, it came as a shock that Roe v. Wade was overturned. Some people have been following since the leaked decision earlier this year. But for folks like me who've been involved in abortion laws around the country, this has been something that since about I'd say 3 to 5 years, we have known that abortion rights in our country were very weak, and so we've been working on educating folks through those spaces on issues on how to protect their communities, what state legislators could be doing if it was overturned federally. Like Rhode Island, we really pushed in 2019, and we finally, after 30 years, passed the RPA, which was one step to ensure that Rhode Island would always have access to abortion. But with that, there were still communities who were left out of that access. So I started it to share my knowledge as a state senator, the inner workings of some of the decisions. Some examples that I was trying to explain were that folks were calling for Governor McKee to sign an executive order about an influx of folks who are coming to Rhode Island. There will be no influx of folks seeking abortion coming to Rhode Island because there just quite frankly we don't have the infrastructure in place, and most Rhode Islanders actually go out of state for their services.
Oh, I have to admit I didn't know that. That's interesting in and of itself. So, the video.
Yes.
I'm just curious, was it a planned thing? Like, let's go make, a fun TikTok video for the mixed account, the campaign mixed account, or more of just for a moment, you were at the beach, you said, let's do it?
Yeah, I was just at the beach having a good time, and I'd been posting. I'm still very new to TikTok. I am at the cusp. I just found out today, Gen Z starts at 1997, and I'm just a few years older than that, so I don't quite understand it. I don't really get it. So I was still playing around with the platform, still trying to figure out what algorithm to go viral. That was one of my first videos. I was like, can someone help me figure out how to go viral? And well, I guess I did it correctly.
You succeeded, I would say. What was the reaction you were hoping for when you were talking to folks saying, all right, let's figure out a video that I think will get people's interest?
Yeah, I was hoping for folks to be activated to come to my page and then share even more information about the state of abortion access and other reproductive health rights, trans rights, and bodily autonomy on that platform, which is what the vast majority of the other videos are.
Right, explaining that you're using the policy and how things
Yes.
work. So, can you walk me through kind of the days after you posted the video and sort of when you realized this is taking on a life of its own? This is not maybe I assume you weren't expecting, I should ask probably, but I assume you weren't expecting the reaction that has happened in the days since.
Correct. I mean, my TikToks are all Rhode Island specific because I'm only an expert on Rhode Island politics and Rhode Island law. And so I didn't really expect this to take off globally. And I did not expect it to become a meme sensation. But I'm glad it sparked a lot of important conversations, and it's been able to uplift a lot of the causes that I care about. The day after, it blew up almost immediately. And that was pretty shocking to me, and I think it was immediately picked up by some right-wing folks and my opponent as a campaign fundraising tool. And from there, I think it was the alt-right troll farm that really manufactured the craze around twerking Tiara. And
I think, I think there's people who disagree with the video, but certainly didn't think you should be subject to abuse. But then there were people who, my understanding is, have been quite abusive toward you who saw the video.
Oh, I've received hundreds hundreds, if not thousands, of messages. I have received voicemails calling me the N-word, many people calling me disgusting, asking for me to resign, folks who are saying that I'm a disgrace and disgusting. I've heard it all, and simply for a video wearing a bathing suit that most people wear at the beach. So it was quite alarming, but this is not the first time I've been subjected to abuse like that. Earlier this year, because of my comprehensive sex ed bill, I received a similar spew of hate mail, and even got a letter sent to my home that was unaddressed from someone in Michigan. So this wasn't uncommon, but it's definitely a different magnitude than the first time.
Just briefly, did anything rise to the level you needed to report it to law enforcement because there was a safety concern?
So I did report the instance of the unmarked letter coming to my home.
From the previous
previous person. And right now I have collected several instances. I just haven't really had the bandwidth or the capacity to report everything, but as things are coming in, I have a team of folks who are flagging anything that looks concerning.
So I would say we noticed in the newsroom, I would say a generational, the younger people in the newsroom generally knew what twerking was and sort of recognized what you were doing, no matter whether they thought you should or not. They knew what you're up to. I do think Governor McKee said he'd never heard of twerking. I'm sure there are grandparents who'll be watching the news who just aren't familiar with it. How would you describe twerking to someone of maybe a different generation who is not familiar with it?
Yes, so twerking is all the craze these days on the dance floor. There are twerk nights. There is Big Frida, who is a musical artist that just did a song with Beyonce, is known for like having twerk anthems. So twerking, I believe it became popular like a few years ago, but it is bending your knees and gyrating your hips, and it is one of the ultimate expressions of like joy and happiness on the dance floor. As someone who likes to go and dance and like get down with my friends, like most people are twerking.
So you had a very wide range of responses, I would say, but one that stuck out to me as I was looking at comments and listening to other interviews you've done and just talking to people was from women, and I'd say more often maybe women from older generations who feel that it's taken a long time and a lot of work to get women to stop being looked at for their bodies and looked at their qualifications and professional roles, and they see you as you're an Ivy League educated woman with a fairly powerful position. I know you tangle with leadership, but you're still a state senator.
Yeah.
And say, well, this can take us back because it could lead to more objectifying of women or bringing that back. What do you say to that specific concern?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting conversation. I've really loved to like dissect that because as someone who has had their body objectified their entire life, and as someone whose body is literally a topic of discussion at the federal level about whether or not I will have the right to abortion, whether or not trans people will have right to gender-affirming surgeries, or whether or not intersex people will have the right to decline gender-conforming surgeries. My body has always been a topic of conversation, or Black bodies have always been a topic of conversation. And I've struggled with the idea that in order to be respected, I have to be fully clothed and buttoned up, and I have to be performing in a way that is inauthentic to myself. I have to be performing in a way that society has determined is professional. And so I love to challenge that idea that with my Ivy League degree, with my status as a current state senator, I did not receive respect in that building in multiple ways. There was a hearing where we were listening to a bill about payday loan lending, and one of the lobbyists who'd been there for a while, I think his name is Bill, he interrupted me while I was speaking. I started crying. Still, he wanted to interrupt me. And that was a level of disrespect and that I had never experienced as a senator with an Ivy League degree.
This was on a committee, you were one of the committee members asking the question.
Yes, on the Commerce Committee where I'm the secretary, I had someone, a lobbyist who felt that they could interrupt me. A seated senator sitting in the room as the secretary of the Commerce Committee was interrupted by someone. And so it's not about what I'm wearing. It's not about what I'm doing. They wouldn't respect me regardless. I was fighting for my bills for the last 2 years. I had bills this year that got hearings last year that didn't even get scheduled for a hearing. I was working with the Senate president to have a meeting. My meeting was canceled in February and never rescheduled. I followed up weekly, sent text messages, sent emails, went down to his office and to his secretary to schedule a meeting to talk about the policies that I care about, and they went ignored. And so when people say that I'm not going to be respected for dancing and for flipping upside down, I wasn't respected before then. but now people are listening. And so I think that's the important thing, that as a Black woman, as a Black queer woman, I wasn't respected before this, and now I'm showing people that it wasn't about what I was wearing, it's not about what I'm doing, it's not about the accolades that I have, it's about a system that strategically sets up society to believe that women of color, young people, don't deserve a voice and don't deserve a place in a room. And so I'm challenging that.
How do you balance, and I say this fully realizing I am a straight white male having this conversation with you, but how do you balance the desire, I know among many women, even I think if I understand you right, you're saying not to be objectified for your physical attributes, to be seen, you know, for what you're bringing to the table intellectually or in your work, versus what you've talked about, your desire to be able to show that side of yourself and have it integrated, because clearly not everyone's there with you yet, based on the reaction this week.
Yeah, I think it is. I think the context of the video is I'm in a bathing suit on the beach having fun. And I think that's the weird thing. I wasn't at the State House twerking. I wasn't gyrating on someone in a lewd manner. I was at the beach in a bathing suit, which most people wear. And so for people to say that this was somehow unprofessional or it lacked decorum, the context matters and the position matters. And as a younger person, who is creating content and who leads with authenticity and love and empowers young people to step into their voice, which is what I've been doing throughout my campaign as an openly queer person. So many people are now like, wow, I had no idea that I could live a life authentically and fun and free and be a state senator and make changes and inspire other people. And so I think it is a generational difference and a generational gap. And maybe my content is not for the older generation, but for my peers and for the younger generation. I think it resonated, and it's starting a conversation about what our next wave of leaders is going to look like and what they're going to lead like. So
knowing the reaction now that you had, if someone had told you the day you were making the video, this all would happen, would you have still made it?
I would have, yes. And I think it's been so exciting and fascinating to dive into these conversations with people and to really challenge their thinking. I've been having really interesting conversations with my mom, with my peers. I had friends.
What did your mom think of the video?
Oh God, so the first day my mom called and she's like, wow. Like, she's like, you should have known better. You should have known this would have like blown up. And then the next day my mom says, oh, I see. And I told my mom, like, quite frankly, I was like, Mom, we are not having this conversation. They would not have respected me.
But your mom had the reaction that some of
the
other folks did. Your own mother, yeah, that's interesting.
Yes, my own mother. But I think it's being someone who's full of compassion and love and is an educator. I can understand that pushing the boundaries challenges people and it scares people. Many people haven't seen a leader who isn't afraid to receive criticism and face it boldly and with a smile and turn it on its head, literally. Many people haven't seen a leader who will take that type of criticism and be able to dissect it and use it as a talking point but I'm a woman and they didn't respect me before this. As a woman with an Ivy League degree who's been fighting for marginalized communities, including our incarcerated individuals, including people who are facing evictions, they didn't listen to those bills. They shut them down. They held them for further study. But now I have a platform because my body was the topic of conversation. And so I think it's challenging people to think, well, we wouldn't have known about Tiara Mack before, but now that we do, what is she saying?
So the other question I had for you on the politics of this is, I think one of the big reasons it got a lot of attention was it was picked up by the Twitter account Libs of TikTok, which generally looks to spotlight TikTok videos by people on the left that they think will get a negative reaction in other quarters. And it's a campaign year. Democrats are fearful they're going to lose the House of Representatives in Washington. I know at a different level from government point you're at, but you're a Democrat yourself. Is there anything to be said about avoiding creating these controversies if it's going to be weaponized by people who want to prevent your party from holding power? Granted that I know you have many disagreements with the leaders of your own party, but do you know what I mean? Like, knowing it's going to create something that they'll say, oh, look, you can't elect these people, and maybe stir something up.
Yeah, and I think they will always find a way to weaponize our identities. They will always find a reason. Like, I was called a thug for twerking upside down. I was called a thug and a pedophile and a groomer for introducing a comprehensive, queer, inclusive, age-appropriate sex ed bill that was also paired with a sexual assault survivors bill of rights bill. I was called all these names beforehand. They will find a reason to weaponize our identities and our causes, and that's been one of the tactics of the right for a really long time. And I think the failure of the left is to shrink when we have those conversations, is to shrink when we get that criticism, because people are afraid. The harassment sucks. The harassment is at times overwhelming. I'm glad I have a team of people who field a lot of those. I'm glad I have a strong sense of self-worth. I'm glad I have a therapist. I'm glad I have outlets, including rugby and crochet, that fill my life with joy and block out a lot of that hate. But we cannot allow the right to take our messages of love, compassion, and affirming and lifting up communities and turn it into a weapon. Because when we are silent in the face of justice, that's when injustice prevails. The right is only winning because they're dominating the narrative. On many of my posts, I will receive thousands of bots who will say, who will try to discredit every single thing I say. And they expect that my response will be to tweet less. They expect that my response will be to not say the word abortion. They expect that my response will be not to say abolish prisons or police accountability. But because my response is, I'm going to say it more, I'm going to say it louder, I'm going to say it fearlessly, they don't know what to do with that. And I think more leaders on the left should look at their tactics, look them in the eyes, and say that we are not afraid to stand up for our communities. We are not afraid to stand up for what is right, what is true, and what is just for all of our communities. And so to the right, I say, I am not afraid to stand firmly in my beliefs as for who I am, for what I am, and for what I stand for. I'm unafraid to continue to lead an authentic and bold life that uplifts communities.
I've asked you a lot about negative reactions. You've gotten plenty of positive reactions that I've seen as well. One thing I'm just curious about is people who saw it taking off in a negative way who then nationally also responded positively. Have you seen an uptick in campaign donations, for example?
I have seen an uptick in campaign donations. I actually haven't been circulating my link too much. Prior to this, if you watch the TikToks, I was encouraging folks not to donate to politicians. That was one of the actions that I was telling folks to take after the overturning of Roe v. Wade, because there are many promises from politicians, and as someone who worked in the Rhode Island General Assembly and was one of the 23 sponsors, I was the second sponsor of the EACA bill. 23 sponsors.
It's a bill which, just for people who don't know, that would be, that's a bill that allows state funding for abortion for people on Medicaid and people in the state workers' health plan.
And with that, that bill had a majority of senator support, and it was still held for further study. It's been heard for years now, and it's not about the leaders, it's about where the power is held. So I wasn't looking for campaign donations, but one thing that I was really overwhelmed with and I'm really excited about is that young people are like, wait, there's an election? I didn't know there was an election. We just had a presidential election. We're now in the midterms, and people are like, wait, I need to go register. So I've had so many people reaching out. They're like, girl, now I know I got to go register to vote, or like I just moved, so now I need to like change my voter registration. And again, it's been mostly the younger generation, which is, I guess, my audience, sitting comfortably between like a young millennial and like slightly older than Gen Z. But I think that's been some of like the overwhelming joy, is that community members and people are like, wow, I should be registered to vote.
That's interesting, because we do see, just statistically, young people far less likely to participate in a midterm versus a presidential election. So it's interesting. I'm not shocked necessarily to hear that, but that's an interesting reaction. As we wrap up, this one just came across my desk today as I was preparing for this interview, which is an FCC commissioner is actually calling on Apple and Google to ban TikTok. And I'm curious for you as an elected official and a policymaker, granted it would be a federal issue, but because they're worried about the Chinese government and the safety of people's data. What's your view? We know it's very popular, but clearly some people have real concerns about what's behind TikTok. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it would be I just got new to TikTok. It is, you know, the reason for the platform that I have now. But as a young millennial, I also saw the rise and fall of Vine, the 7-second video app, and I also saw, I don't know if there was another one, but I've seen the rise and fall of many apps.
You're not old enough for MySpace, huh? Like,
oh,
like
I did have a MySpace.
Okay,
yes, I did have MySpace.
LiveJournal?
I did not have LiveJournal, but I had Zynga.
Oh, all right. Yeah, we are a little different. We're different levels of millennial. Yeah.
So I've seen the rise and fall of many apps, and I'm sure we are, the younger generation is a resilient and creative group of people. We will find a way to create community online, and we will find a way to make something go viral. There's like a new meme every like week, I swear. American Girl dolls are currently trending. So we will find a way, even if TikTok is banned and is no longer allowed in the U.S., we'll find a way to twerk on, and we'll find a way to build community online.
Last question, Senator. I would say after this week, you probably have the highest profile of any state senator I cover, at least of the 38 of you, you're up there. Could you ever see yourself running for higher office?
That's a question that a lot of people have asked, and right now I'm 2 years into my term, or into my first term, and I hope to continue to serve the people of Rhode Island, especially those in District 6, for another few years. But I don't know if I see myself going higher. There's so much power at the state level, and right now, because of the climate that we have at the federal level, and we are reverting many of the decisions back to state rights, we're going to need stronger municipal governments. We're going to need stronger state governments, and I think that's where the power is held. We're in a very large country that is clearly divided on lots of issues that matter, and I think it's up to us to build a grassroots movement within our states and within our communities of like really strong leaders who are fighting for people at the local level and at the state level. So I'm not ruling it out. I don't have like a glass ball to look into the future, but I'm not ruling it out, but I'm not like jumping in and jumping up and saying, yeah, that's going to be me.
All right, State Senator Tiara Mack, thanks for sitting down with me.
Yeah, of course.